Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Ways and Means. Committee Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Backus. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblywoman Haudegi. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblyman Miller. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Yeager. Chair Monroe Moreno.
And I am here. Good morning. Happy Monday to everyone. We have a few bills on our agenda for today. If you are joining us and would like to make public comment at the end of our meeting today, that public comment will be at the very end, 2 minutes per caller, and that number is 888-475-4499. Our meeting ID for the day is 83961736. And then please press pound. Members will be using their electronic devices, and I'll remind everyone to mute or turn off any electronic devices you have on you so that it's not disruptive to the meeting. So with that, we will get started, and I will tell you, members, we will be coming back today, so we will not be adjourning. We'll be recessing. I'm not sure how many more times we'll be gathering today, but it's going to happen. We're at that time of session. So we will start with Assembly Bill 458, and I will invite the presenters to the table for AB 458.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Megan Peterson. I serve as the Deputy Superintendent for the Student Investment Division at the Department of Education. Today, I am presenting on AB 458. This bill was created to address cash flow issues that we frequently encounter during the second year of the biennium with the Pupil-Centered Funding Plan. This is the result of revenue collection timing, and AB 458 authorizes the superintendent to request a temporary advance from the Education Stabilization Account when expenditure obligations exceed revenues. The request would be made to the Director of the Office of Finance, who, upon approval, will notify the State Controller and the Legislative Council Bureau of the transfer. The funds are to be repaid by August 31st of each year in the fiscal year that they are requested. And with that, I am available for any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Members, we had heard discussions about this during hearings earlier this session. Any questions on this bill or the presentation? All right, seeing none, then we will move to testimony and support. Thank you so much. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 458, I invite you to the table. Seeing none, if there's anyone in Las Vegas that's here to testify in support of Assembly Bill 558, I invite you to the table in Las Vegas. Seeing none, BPS, do we have anyone joining us on the phone lines?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Then we will move to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 558? Seeing none, is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 558? Seeing none. And BPS, I'm going to go back to you. Do you have anyone on the phone lines at all, and especially those that would like to provide testimony in opposition or neutral of Assembly Bill 558?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll move to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in the neutral of Assembly Bill 558? Seeing none, is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in the position of neutral 558? Seeing none, then we will have any closing remarks. All right, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 558, and 458. Thank you, 458. And we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 460. if there's someone here in the audience that would like to present. Oh, looks like you're in Las Vegas. Assembly Bill 460. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Paul Schubert, Chief of the Bureau of Healthcare Quality and Compliance. And this bill is a bill to actually reduce the licensure of nursing pools from those that already receive verification of nurses in healthcare facilities. And so if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation. We received an amendment, a conceptual amendment this morning. Are you aware of that amendment? And is that a friendly amendment? And have you seen it?
Yes, again for the record, Paul Schubert. We are familiar with the amendment. It is friendly to the bill, and we would request that that be considered as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And then if you could share with us, either you or the makers of the amendment, how that would affect the fiscal aspects for your division. Will it bring in even less dollars, have even more of a negative impact because you will not be collecting fees on those, or are these entities people who are not paying the fees currently?
Again, for the record, Paul Schubert. Actually, the amendment just clarifies the fiscal impact that the bill was intended to have anyway. So it does reduce some of the licensure fees that the agency will receive for those facilities that would no longer require a license. But the amendment just clarifies that those facilities would necessarily be recruiting nurses or handling nurses that would go to licensed facilities that would already be required to verify all of the requirements for a nurse to work in that facility. So it really doesn't change the fiscal impact.
Thank you so much for that. Members, any questions for the presenter? Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you so much. Just for me to help understand a little bit better, could you just give me an overview of how it is currently being done and what this bill will do to change it, like real-world examples?
Absolutely. Paul Schubert for the record. Currently, the nursing pool licensure that we have requires both licensure of entities that are providing services independently to persons in their own home, as well as such as I can't think of the terminology, but anyways, it's licensure of those entities as well as entities that are recruiting nurses to be a pool for use in licensed facilities. So what we want to do is remove the types of facilities that recruit nurses to be a pool for those licensed facilities that are using them, and only keep the requirement for nursing pools that are doing independent work exclusive of a licensed facility. I'm hoping that answered the question.
So to clarify, if you're a skilled nursing facility that houses people, you won't need this. But if you have home health care workers, nurses that go out, those groups of companies will still have to be licensed. Is that correct?
Again, for the record, Paul Schubert, yes. The intent is that we would no longer license nursing pools that would recruit nurses for a skilled nursing facility or a hospital or other types of entities that are licensed. The skilled nursing facility obviously still continues its licensure, but it's just the nursing pool would not need a license if that's all they were doing is recruiting nurses for use in those kinds of facilities.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will remind members that this is just a budget implementation bill that relates to healthcare facilities regulations, which is budget account 3216, and the money committees did approve this during our hearings that we had for the full committee. So with that, members, any other questions? Seeing none, I thank you so much for your presentation, and we will move to testimony in support of Assembly Bill 460. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 460, I invite you to the table here. Seeing none, if there's anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 460, I invite you to the table. Seeing none, BPS, do we have anyone joining us on the phone line that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 460?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll move to opposition. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 460, I invite you to the table. Seeing none, if there's anyone in Las Vegas that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 460, I invite you to the table there. Seeing none, and BPS, if I understand you correctly, we do not have anyone on the phone lines as of yet this morning. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
Thank you so much. So moving to the neutral position, if there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in neutral, I invite you to the table. And if there's anyone in Las Vegas, I invite you to step up to the table now. And we'll start here in Carson City.
Good morning, Chairman Moreno, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jimmy Lau with Ferrari Reader Public Affairs, representing CareRev. We are the entity that submitted the proposed amendment. We'd like to thank the division for working with us on this to clarify the exemption for this type of business, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and I'm not seeing any questions for you. I appreciate it. Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas to testify in the neutral position. BPS, our phone lines are still empty.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 460. And we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 462. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Moreno, Vice Chair Backus, and all members of the committee. My name is Chris DeRico. I'm the Chairman of the Board of Parole Commissioners. To my right is Kathy Baker, our Management Analyst 3, and I'd like to thank you for letting us present Assembly Bill 462. Assembly Bill 462 is an act that amends Chapter 213 of NRS and adds the Chair's appointment of an Executive Director to the Parole Board. AB 462 includes the delegation of certain powers and duties to the Executive Director, moves supervision of the Executive Secretary from the Board to the Executive Director, and makes conforming changes to indicate the proper placement in NRS 213. Funds for the Executive Director position were approved and our budget was closed on May 1st, 2023, contingent upon the passage of AB 462. There are no amendments to this bill. And with that, this concludes our presentation, and we are willing to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, you'll see that there's no fiscal notes included with this bill. However, Decision Unit E380 and the Parole Board's budget account 3800 included a cost to hire the new Executive Director's position. That was approved by the Money Committees on May 1st. So this piece of legislation is necessary to implement the budget as we closed it. Any questions for the presenters? Seeing none, I thank you so much for your testimony today, your presentation today. And we'll move to testimony in support of AB 462. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in support, I invite you to the table. Seeing none, not seeing anyone in Las Vegas at the time. So we'll move to the phone lines. BPS, do we have anyone joining us by the phone as of yet this morning?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. And then we will move to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to provide testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 462? I invite you to the table. Not seeing any. And not seeing anyone in Las Vegas, and knowing that we do not have anyone on our phone lines, we will move to the position of neutral. Do we have anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 462? See none, and no one in Las Vegas. And I believe we still have no one on our phone line. We will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 462. And we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 485. Okay. And with that, we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 485. Good morning.
Good morning. Brenda Erdos for the Legislative Council Bureau. This morning we have you should have on your desk a mock-up of a proposed amendment to AB 485. It significantly reduces the amount of the appropriation, as you'll see there. And I can give you a rundown of what this would fund. Basically, the first thing on there is the annual dues. That part is approximately, organizations. The annual dues is $975,000. The van is we've included at $75,000, and then the information technology services projects. The first one is for the BPS control room upgrade. It's $1,534 and $1,534,840, and basically that is to help with the system that allows us to video conference and all the other things that that BPS does. They have been able to, through these last few years, really cobble together everything that we had to make this work. We didn't really know until fairly soon before session that we were going to be, all the services that we were going to be providing. And so this will help them greatly, besides helping with the updated equipment. The next thing is a hardware and server infrastructure replacement. That's $513,637. That will update basically all the pieces that make our laptops through our website to all the things that we have work. We also have an appropriation for audio, video, and telecommunication systems upgrades. That is $734,362, and that is for the audio, video, and telecommunication, all of the phones and everything that we do here. The last thing in this part is the eminent domain migration, and among other things, that piece will allow us to change our email addresses. The part that goes after the @ that's pretty long. It's lcb.state.nv.us. It will shorten that up significantly and make our email addresses part of the normal system that people have that make it work better. The other two things in this appropriation are just the van and the dues. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Members, as Assembly Bill 45 was introduced, it appropriated $25,587,290,000, and that was included in the governor's recommended budget. However, with the amendment you have before you, it's a significant reduction, and now the revised appropriation is $3,974,486. Any questions on the bill, the amendment, or the presentation as presented by the presenter? Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation. I see no questions. I'll invite up to the table anyone that's here that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 485. See no one come to the table here and not seeing anyone in our Las Vegas room. BPS, have we had anyone join us on the phone lines as of yet?
Mayor, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Then we will move to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 485? Seeing none, not having anyone in Las Vegas and no one on the phone lines, we will move to the position of neutral. Is there anyone here that would like to testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 485? Seeing none. Still not seeing anyone in Las Vegas, and knowing that we do not have anyone on our phone lines, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 485. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And with that, we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 498. Good morning. We'll be welcoming our fiscal staff to the table to present Assembly Bill 498. You can start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council Bureau, Fiscal Analysis Division. I serve as the Assembly Fiscal Analyst for the Legislative Council Bureau. As you know, the LCB is a nonpartisan agency. We do not support or oppose any particular piece of legislation, policy, or viewpoint. Rather, we provide the legislature and its members with objective advice and analysis on fiscal issues, including explanations regarding proposed legislation. I am here today to walk you through Assembly Bill 498 and to answer any questions you may have regarding this piece of legislation. So with that, Madam Chair, on February 13th, fiscal year 2023, the Joint Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and the Senate Committee on Finance reviewed the PERS budget. During that meeting, PERS testified that the PERS rates were scheduled to increase for employer-paid plans by 3.75% for regular members and 6% for police fire members, as well as an increase for employee-employer paid plan of 2% for regular members and 3% for police fire members. Also during that meeting, committee members directed PERS to provide options to mitigate the increase in the retirement contribution rates for state employees. PERS met with the Fiscal Analysis Division staff and provided some options that would increase the state's contribution rates to cover employee retirement while reducing employees' contribution rates. According to the system, most public pension plans either set a maximum statutory rate or a percentage that employees pay or require employees to pay at least 1/2 of the normal benefits cost of the contribution rates. A change from an equal split of the entire contribution rate to the employees only paying 1/2 of the normal rate would shift the volatility of the contribution rates, mainly associated with the payment of the unfunded accrued actuarial liability to the state. And just for the committee's edification, the actuarially determined contribution rate for both regular fund and the police fire fund are made up of three types of rates. The first is the normal payment, which is the present value of the pension plan benefits expenses. The second component of it is the unfunded actuarial accrued liability amortization payment, which is the excess of accrued liability over values of assets. And then the third component of the rate is the administrative expenses. So just to provide you with an example of what the normal costs were for fiscal year 2022, normal cost for a regular member on the employee-employer pay plan was 20.18% of the contribution rate, while the unfunded actuarial accrued liability amortization payment was 18.58%, and the administrative costs made up 0.2%. During the March 30th work session of the State Employees Benefits, the Money Committees recommended the drafting of a bill that would adjust the percentages of the contributions made to state employees to the public employees retirement system on behalf of the state employees for current, from its current statutory provision of 50% to a total statutory contribution rate less 1/2 of the normal costs. As such, AB 495 reflects the requested legislation that was requested by the committee. During the work session, fiscal staff did provide the committees with preliminary estimates on what this change would cost, which at the time the estimate was general fund appropriations of $145.7 million, highway funds of $43.8 million, and other funds of $84.6 million over the 2023-25 biennium. Since all of the budgets have been closed, fiscal staff was able to recalculate how much it would cost to cover the noted half of normal costs. Factoring in the decisions made by the money committees in developing the legislatively approved budget, it is estimated that general fund appropriations of $165.3 million, highway funds of $40.0 million, and other funds of $74.8 million would be required to implement this bill. I would note that there is approximately $19.7 million difference in the general fund that was originally estimated for the committee, and that $19.7 million increase is primarily attributed to the addition of certain professional employees of the state Nevada System of Higher Education who participate in the PERS system, as well as increasing the percentage of costs supported with general fund appropriations from 100% or from 80% to 100% for both the Legislative Council Bureau as well as the judicial branch. The committee may recall that during the work session, it was indicated that some fee-funded agencies or agencies that did not have access to the general fund or highway fund might have a difficult time covering the additional costs associated with the proposed contribution change. As such, fiscal staff performed a calculation to estimate how much may be needed to ensure that all accounts that rely on a reserve had funds set aside to assist them over the biennium to ensure that they maintained a 30-day reserve. The estimated cost was approximately $12.9 million over the biennium. In addition, fiscal staff also conducted a review of all budgets that neither had general fund appropriations, highway fund appropriations, nor reserve to absorb the costs. Fiscal staff estimates that the need to cover those budgets would be provided for would be $12.5 million over the 2023-25 biennium. If the committee wished to cover the costs of these types of budgets, the proposal would require a total of $190.7 million in general fund appropriations over the 2023-2025 biennium. And as such, the bill would require an amendment to amend into the bill general fund appropriations as just indicated of $190.7 million over the biennium, as well as highway fund appropriations of $39.9 million. The Nevada System of Higher Education did submit an unsolicited fiscal note of $42.1 million in each year of the biennium related to the bill as introduced. Under existing law, the Board of Regents is required to provide a retirement program separate from the PERS for professional staff, and the contributions of that alternative retirement plan must be not less than the contributions authorized by the employees or authorized by the employees of the public employers of the public employees retirement system. There are professional employees that were originally in PERS system and transferred to NSHE who do remain in the PERS system. A mock-up amendment has been provided to the committee. AB 198 was not intended to modify the contributions related to the Nevada System of Higher Education's retirement plan alternative, and therefore there is a revision that is provided with the mock-up. And so with that, Madam Chair, would you like me to walk the committee through Assembly Bill 498 as recommended in the amendment?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the mock-up that should all be on your desk, beginning on page 2, sections 3 and 4 provide definitions for normal costs and participating state agencies. Normal costs meaning the portion of the present value of projected benefits that are attributed to the current year of service as determined by the actuary of the system, and participating state agencies, meaning the following public employees that participate in the system, including all agencies, bureaus, boards, commissions, departments, divisions, officers, or other units of the executive branch of the state government in terms including the Nevada System of Higher Education and the Legislative Council Bureau's legislative branch as well as the judicial branch. Section 5 makes an exception to how the employees' retirement contributions are calculated for employees in participating state agencies. Subsection 3 of Section 5 provides that employees of participating state agencies would contribute 1/2 of the normal costs that is actuarially determined. Subsection 3 of Section 5 also provides a mechanism to adjust the contribution rates if the actuarially determined rate is 1/4% lower or 1% higher than the existing contribution rate. So an example of this would be if an existing contribution rate is 10% and the actuarially determined rate is more than 10.25%, the rate would be increased. Whereas if the existing contribution rate is 10% and the actuarially determined rate were less than 9%, then the rate would be lowered. Moving on to page 4, subsection 6 makes conforming changes to require, for the purposes of adjustment of salary increases and cost of living increases or of salary reductions, that the division of total contribution be determined in the same manner as provided for in determining the employee and employer's contribution rates. Then moving on to page 6, section 7. Provides that employers of the participating state agencies would contribute the total contributions of a participating agency less 1/2 of the normal costs. This section also provides a mechanism to adjust the contribution rate of an employer of an actuarially determined rate if the actuarially determined rate is 1/4% lower than or 1% higher than the existing contribution rate. An example of this would be if the contribution rate is 25% and the actuarially determined rate is more than 25.25%, the rate would be increased. Whereas if the existing employer contribution were 25% and the actuarially determined rate were less than 24%, the rate would be lowered. And I would note that there would be a mechanism to round this to the nearest 1/4% for both the employee and the employer contribution calculation mechanisms in this. Finally, on the last page, page 7, this is Section 8 provides the adjustment that is provided for in the mock-up, and this is Section 8 sets the contribution rate for the Nevada System of Higher Education's alternative retirement plan to 7.5%, which mirrors the rate that is provided for in the executive budget, and it decouples the correlation between this retirement and the PERS retirement. Madam Chair, that concludes my prepared remarks, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for walking us through the amendment. Going back to Section 8, I think you said it's 7.5, but it would be at 17.5%, correct?
Madam Chair, you are correct. That is 17.5%.
Thank you so much. Members, questions? Let me get my postie. We will start with Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is, if with this amendment, could you go over again the actual impact to general fund, highway fund?
So with the amendment, there would be no fiscal impact because that would be decoupling the Nevada System of Higher Education's retirements contributions to their alternative retirement account from the PERS contributions. With respect to the actual dollar amounts for the bill, is that okay? Sure. So with respect to the budget amendment and the estimated cost that this would be, if it were implemented, the committee would need to augment this budget, or excuse me, this bill by $190.7 million over the biennium in general fund appropriations and $40 million over the biennium in highway fund appropriations.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and if I may, two quick questions. I know you just went over the general fund and the highway fund, and thank you. I believe you also mentioned that there'd be other funds, though, that would need to be looked at. Do we know what those figures are going to look like, and if they will need a one-shot appropriation thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Assemblyman Hafen. Yes, those amounts include a provision for agencies that are fee-funded and have a reserve, and those agencies that neither have a highway fund or general fund appropriation, nor do they have a reserve. And so those numbers, and again, those are inclusive of the $90.7 million. Those numbers for reserve fee-funded agencies is $12.9 million over the biennium. And for those budgets that neither have general fund appropriations, highway fund appropriations, nor do they have reserves, the estimated amount to be set aside would be $12.5 million over the 2023-25 biennium.
Thank you for that. And second question, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I know the amendment addresses NCHE going from 10 to 17.5, and there was a unsolicited fiscal note from NCHE. Was that based on the 10 or the 17.5?
So I believe there's a representative from NCHE here that could speak to that, but it's my understanding that the fiscal note that was provided for NCHE was based on the contributions that would be changed in the bill as originated. And what ended up happening was with the original bill, this also impacted the Nevada System of Higher Education's alternative retirement plan, which is coupled with the percentage. And so, for example, if the state's contribution was changed from 50% to half of normal, that would then require the state to provide 25% contribution rate to the Nevada System of Higher Education's retirement plan alternative. And so with the amendment, it brings it back down to a 50-50 for the Nevada System of Higher Education's retirement alternative plan. And so that would be reflective of the 17.5% for both the state and then the employee or the staff member that would be contributing to that alternative retirement plan.
And Ms. Kaufman, we do have someone here from NG. I'll invite them to the table to speak to their fiscal note and if there will be any adjustments with the amendment. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Andrew Klinger, Chief Financial Officer for the Nevada System of Higher Education. The fiscal note that was originally put on this bill, Ms. Kaufman described perfectly. It was assuming that the rates for not only our PERS employees, but those that are in the what we call the retirement plan alternative, that those rates would have matched PERS. And so that resulted in a $42 million fiscal note. With this amendment, the fiscal impact to the Nevada System of Higher Education for just our PERS employees is reduced to $11.4 million. And if I understand Ms. Kaufman's testimony correctly, that 11.4 is part of that 190 million, I believe.
Madam Chair, that is correct.
And then I think the next question would be, how would it impact those in the alternative system?
Madam Chair, for the record, Andrew Klinger. So based on this change here, as Ms. Kaufman stated, those numbers match what was in the governor's recommended budget. And so the fiscal impact for that change was built into the governor's budget already. So there would be no additional fiscal impact.
Thank you so much. Assemblyman Hafen, you have another question. By the look on your face, go ahead and ask.
Just so I understand correctly, so because I want to talk apples and apples, the 190.7 is over the biennium, and you referenced the 11.4. I'm assuming that's per year, though, so it'd be 22.8 over the biennium. But what I'm hearing is that 22.8 is actually included in the 190.7. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, through you to Assemblyman Hafen. Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you. So I just wanted to get it straight in my mind, too. So with this change, now we're having the employee contribute half of the normal half, so to speak. So if we were to go back 2 years ago, the previous biennium, it was 50-50 between the employee and the state. So now the employee contributing half of the 50%. So essentially now the employee is contributing 25% or 1/4, and the state is now picking up 3/4. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the way that the normal costs currently round out, yes, it would be. So they would be contributing approximately 10%, versus the state would be contributing about 25%. Mm-hmm. So that would be the total.
So the total cost about a quarter
So
a quarter from the employee and 3/4 from the state.
Correct, and so that would round out
Roughly.
roughly the 33.5%.
So that's shifting the cost to
contribution.
the agencies and the state, the
That's correct.
taxpayers. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it. We've had long discussions about compensation for our employees, and one of the biggest things that came up in almost every hearing that we have had from directors during their presentations of why they're losing people and their inability to recruit people, a large amount of it was the payment for their retirement system that the state employees have to pay, as opposed to those that we're competing with at the local municipalities. So I thank you so much, our fiscal staff and PERS representatives, for working to come up with an alternative to help make the state a little bit more competitive, and maybe we can hold on to some employees and maybe even gain a few new ones. So with that, we will move to testimony in support of Assembly Bill 498. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Carter Bundy with AFSCME. Madam Chair, you pretty much took my presentation. Throughout the session, you've heard from different agencies and departments, as well as workers, about the dramatic staffing shortages and vacancies we have that cripple the state's ability to deliver the services that Nevada citizens deserve and need. State employee salaries have consistently lagged behind city and county counterparts, in addition to other states, and even to the private sector to a large degree, meaning the state is effectively serving as a training ground for other employers in both the public and private sector. As the chair alluded to, one of the major reasons for this is the cost of PERS. We know it's a good retirement system. We want it to be fully funded. We are grateful that PERS has done a good job of letting you know what the numbers are, but we also know that that requires input from the state and from the employees. One thing I would note about the total amount, it's not reducing it to a quarter, it's reducing it to half of the normal cost, and the overall total cost is 35%, so it's 10% out of 35%, not 10% out of 40%. But the general concept that it would be half of the normal cost, which is essentially going 50-50 on their retirement and not paying for legacy costs, is what this bill does. And so with that, we encourage your support for AB 498, and thank you for all your work on employee compensation this year.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Tess Opferman here on behalf of the AFSCME retirees. Though we represent retirees, we are also directly impacted by the vacancy crisis that is faced by the whole state. This body has done really incredible work this session trying to raise take-home pay and address that employee crisis, and we feel this measure is directly goes with those efforts. We really appreciate this bill. We do feel like this measure will help bring state employee pay in line with cities and counties, making these jobs a little more competitive. I don't want to steal Mr. Irvin's thunder, but I encourage you to look at his letter that he submitted. There's a really great graph that shows the employee contributions in comparison to other states. I'll let him speak to that more if he's going to, but I think that's very helpful. This will bring those contributions closer in line with what contributions look like in other states. So with that, we're in full support, and we appreciate this hearing this morning.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Kent Irvin, State President, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Ditto to Mr. Bundy and Ms. Opferman. AB 498 is good policy. Our written submission lists the reasons for our strong support based on AB 498 as introduced. At NSHE, 15 to 20% of faculty are in PERS because they were a member of PERS in prior employment and are required to stay in PERS. The other 85% of faculty are required to be in the NSHE retirement plan alternative, a mandatory 401A plan. Per the amendment, the NSHE plan is treated differently than from past policy of tying contributions to PERS. We are still in support of AB 498 with the amendment, assuming it is fully funded as described. On behalf of members, though, I need to put consequences on the record. Consider two faculty members in identical positions, one on PERS, one not. As of July 1, before any COLAs, the one on PERS will receive a generous 5.5% boost in take-home pay, constant guaranteed retirement benefits, and a 9.5% increase in the total compensation and benefits paid by the state. The other in the NSHE plan will receive a 2% decrease in take-home pay because of the PERS increase. Benefits that are dependent on future market returns, including Treasury securities that could go into default, and only a 2% increase in the total compensation and benefits paid by the state. These faculty had no option to choose PERS versus the alternative. Finally, it is essential that the shift in retirement contributions be fully funded by the legislature. Non-state budgets cannot immediately absorb such a large change in PERS contributions on July 1st. if full funding is not possible for immediate implementation of AB 498. An option would be to delay it for a year and use the difference for bridge funding for the non-state funded budgets until the revenue streams can be adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Dan Gordon, President, Nevada Police Union. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. The Nevada Police Union supports AB 498, which seeks to revise provisions relating to the contribution rates of our Public Employees Retirement System, PERS. The employee contribution rates of PERS have long strained state police pay, specifically newer employees who may experience as much as 25% of their take-home pay being directed towards PERS. Furthermore, state police and fire pay significantly more than their contributions than the other non-sworn state employee. While the local, municipal, and county police forces are paying their officers more, they're also paying the employees' PERS contribution share in order to give each officer significantly more take-home pay. The fact of the matter is that this state needs to invest in their state police in order to stop the mass exodus of state police leaving state service to join local jurisdictions for more money. As many of you heard, the Department of Public Safety has made a decision due to the lack of staff to end the Northern Nevada graveyard shift, leaving all roads in Northern Nevada uncovered between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. One of the primary functions of the state is to keep its residents and visitors safe, and a great place to start is to fix the pay inequity between state and local police. We extend our gratitude to Chairman Monroe Moreno for pursuing this much-needed legislation and implore the members to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to testify in support? Not seeing any. And not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anyone joining us on the phone lines?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers this time.
Thank you so much. Coming back to Carson City, do we have anyone here that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 498? Seeing none, and not seeing anyone in Las Vegas, and knowing that we have no one on the phone lines, we will move to the position of neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in the neutral on Assembly Bill 498? Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Tina List, the Executive Officer of the Public Employees Retirement System. The Retirement Board has taken a position of neutral on this bill. That continues the same contributions in, and it would continue the same benefits out. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Not seeing any questions. I appreciate your comments. And with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 498. And we will move to the last item on our agenda for this morning, and that would be public comment. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to provide public comment, I invite you to the table. Not seeing any. And there is no one in our Las Vegas office, is there? BPS, do we have anyone who may have joined us in the last few minutes to make public comment?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. So members, with that brings us to the end of our morning meeting. As I said at the top of the meeting, we will not be adjourning. However, we will be in recess, and I will see you guys again one, maybe two more times today. All right, so with that, we are in recess.